Okay, we are live, and I'm joined by Greg Brown from Age of Fire, who people may remember I spoke to him back in August last year with the rest of his band at that point. That was the whole of the Age of Fire lineup, wasn't it? And basically, we're just catching up because you've got new things to tell us about, new Age of Fire stuff and new solo stuff, I believe.
Yeah, we've definitely been busy. I mean, I think like lots of people, everybody's been writing a lot of music with the pandemic, and since we can't do any live shows, it's that's kind of what's been happening. So slowly getting that out to the world. So
I mean, I spoke to you in August. I should have rewatched that before I did this actually, so I can remember what we spoke about then. I should have done that. I didn't think about that. Silly me. But yeah, I mean, you was together there, wasn't you? You was all in the same room, wasn't you, when I did that one? Wasn't it in separate, or was it in separate places? I can't remember now. Did we do it all in one?
Yeah, we did one show. I was actually in where I'm actually same room I'm in now because of the pandemic.
Right.
And then Mike and Laura were at their place. So
yeah. Oh, right. So yes, they were separate at that point. And have you been able to get together since that time to actually do some jamming? I suppose you must have done, or have you done it all online?
It's mostly done remote, and that's kind of been the cool thing with technology. We'd be losing our minds otherwise, been laying stuff down with like click tracks or some temp drum tracks and kind of sharing files back and forth. We got actually Laura's laying down the vocals to a track this weekend, so hopefully we'll have a new Age of Fire single out by hopefully sometime by next month, and that's kind of the plan. I if you remember, we got signed I guess in summer of 2019 with Slip Trick Records, and so we were building momentum for the disc that came out in February of last year. It was like the third week of February, and we were all excited. And I was actually in Europe the first week of March, kind of relaxing after all the whole process and stuff. And we were getting ready to do rehearsals, and then just everything just shut down. And so, and we're still there,
Yeah. So everybody hit a brick wall. It's kind of hard doing interviews at the moment. I mean, I've chatted to quite a few bands, and it's the same with everyone. What you can talk about is what you've been doing during Corona. Then it's pretty much all the same. Everyone's itching to get out there, and because you're like you do your own solo stuff as well. You've been doing that for years, previous to Age of Fire as well, wasn't you? So have you got your own studio? You've been jamming it out there, or?
Yeah, I mean, I've done a couple, because I also do some slow, classical guitar stuff. So I did a couple solo classical guitar things. I did a gig, God, it was like in the fall or the winter, and it was like in this room that had this big frame, and it was like plastic, which I sat behind, and everybody else was like socially distanced and masks and stuff. Right. So I was still able to play. Which was great to perform, but it was definitely a unique experience.
It's like something out of a sci-fi movie. You're stuck behind glass, and everyone's sitting in their own little bubble, separate from each other. It's weird.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, it was a trip. Actually, I have another bubble gig next month too. But I have, and I've been doing a lot of classical writing stuff. I have a string quartet that's premiering next week, and the performers were same thing. They recorded to a metronome, to a click track, and and it's just kind of the best we can do at this point in time. Just definitely miss being in a room with people, just feeling the vibe and the energy of the room, and it's it's hard to get pumped playing in front of your phone or your iPad or whatever, your computer. But
it's the thing that's missing as well. That is good, and people can create music that way, by online internet, whatever, but you lose the kind of immediacy of jamming against each other and bouncing ideas backwards and forwards quickly, rather than wait for the email to come back or wait till you can have a video chat or something like that.
Yeah. Well, and that's the hard thing too, because you can't really jam, if you're because you start getting latency and delay in between signals, and I've tried. It just doesn't work.
They haven't quite got that bit of technology right yet, have they? I mean, you can do all the home recording and home mixing and so forth, and send things back and forwards, get a computer to tidy it all up and add different sounds, but you can't get people in different places all playing at the same time and get it to mesh properly with each other. Because this new technology needs to be made before that's possible.
Yeah.
What about online gigs? Have you done any online gigs? I mean, obviously on your own, or
no, mostly this kind of thing. I was in talks to do a solo gig for a group in New York City, and it was just it's same thing. It's just hard to get puffed. I've done some recording of my own like video stuff, and I put up like on my own personal YouTube page. But it's just to kind of get out there. I think right now it's just a matter of just being like, hey, we're still here, we're still kicking, we're still
Yeah.
writing, still performing. But it's no, it's been a wild year.
Mm. How has it been? How's it been like mental health wise for you? Has it been, because I know a lot of people have been struggling with it, and I know I've been struggling as well. It's just such a crazy situation. You like, even if you don't necessarily want to go out, it's the fact of knowing that you can't go out. It's kind of like it does something to you, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely it's a marathon. You definitely it's a long race.
Mm.
You have to I guess kind of pace yourself, and luckily we do have this technology that we can talk, or you can FaceTime people. I feel probably the worst for people like my daughter. I have a teenage daughter, and like being a
Yeah,
teenager and not being able to socialize or hang out with
yeah.
friends, and that's got to be the worst. I mean, I think the children probably have it worse than we do.
Mm.
And but luckily we do have technology, because I try to think of like if this was like 20 years ago, and boy, we'd be losing our minds more than
Yeah.
we are now.
Yeah, I was thinking the same. I was thinking I don't really mind because I don't go out so much as I used to. I'm kind of like antsy for seeing a live gig. Like I've not been to a live gig since March 2020, and it's
Right.
like, but I was getting a bit lazy anyway, not going out as much as I used to. But I just think that if back when I was in my 20s, when I was going to like 2 or 3 gigs a week and DJ nights, I'd be like, oh man, I'll be climbing the bloody walls. That's the thing.
Yeah, yeah,
You know.
exactly. So yeah, I was lucky. I was in Vienna last March. I think every night that I was there, I saw a concert performance of some kind, but not knowing that was like going to be it.
Yeah. And do you think the end is in sight for the blinking? Yeah, this pandemic, is the end in sight, or we still got a long way to go?
I hate to be a downer. I don't know how it is over there on the other side of the pond, but in the States, well, it's looking a lot better than it was. As far as getting the vaccines and things. But people start talking about another strain, and I think this year is going to be a transition year. I think a lot of
Mm,
people are looking at 20. I mean, that's actually how I started my day today. We were being considered for a summer festival, and got an email, and they're like, "Yeah, it's not going to happen." So, and
no.
mostly it's because insurance companies don't want the liabilities to,
Mm,
in case something happens, or the promoters don't really know if they're going to lose their shirts in trying to
mm,
do the events, and it's not those events take many months to plan, and so here we
yeah,
are, February, and they're going like, yeah, that's not going to happen in July, that's not going to happen in August, it's not going to.
that's yeah. It's just still totally impossible to know what's going to happen. You can't predict. I mean, it might all be over in 2 months. It might be over. It might drag on for another 2 years. We don't know. Still, it's just like, because
Yeah.
like we're like UK now is like the champions of Corona. We've got the worst death rate than any country now. I think like per capita or something like that. I'm not quite sure how they measure these things, but apparently we're the worst now. I'm not sure it's in
Right.
the world or just in Europe, but it's not good.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
let's not talk about that, because we talk about that all the time. People are bored of that conversation now, probably, because there's nothing else to talk about. How has this period of downtime and not being able to go out, the cage beast thing, how has that represented itself in your music?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, so my solo project, which is coming out February 13th, we're doing that. That's hitting all the social media platforms. I released a single, Building 7. So it's all instrumental stuff. It's funny. I was originally planning on doing something next year, which would be like my 40th year playing guitar, and I wanted to do something special, kind of like a retrospective, include stuff from like the 80s all the way through today. And but being in lockdown, I was like, let's just do this now. And then so releasing it digitally, and then maybe 2022, do some shows, in support of it. But that's been it. Is Yeah, music's been like my saving grace, because I've written a bunch of stuff. Like I said, I do a lot of classical stuff, so I've done some classical, solo classical recordings. I've done some chamber music for different groups in Chicago or Argentina. I got a quartet, like I said, premiering next week with the group, and so doing that on top of the metal stuff has been, it's been. I don't know if it wasn't for that, I don't know what I'd be doing. It would be worried.
How is it inside your head with all these different musical things going on? You've got classical music going on in there. You've got your own stuff. You've got the Age of Fire stuff. How do you compartmentalize it, or do you just throw it all in the mixer and do you not like do some classical and suddenly a heavy riff comes out or something like that?
Right.
How do you keep it together?
Well, I think sometimes they kind of blur a little bit. There's definitely some classical stuff that has a very metal edge to it. But then I grew up listening to a bunch of classical or metal music that was classically influenced, be it like Randy Rhoads or Yngwie or whatever it was. And so I think that kind of blurs. I mean, I obviously grew up. I was a big Yngwie fan, so the Paganini stuff makes sense. All the shredding stuff and be it Beethoven or Liszt. I think those guys were like metal, rock stars back in their day. It was just mind blowing. I can't imagine, you listen to some of that music and, what it was like hearing Beethoven's Ninth Symphony or like the Pathetique, Sonata or even Stravinsky, for the first time, and just people just lose their minds. It's powerful. It's powerful. So it does get a little mushy in there.
Yeah, as long as you remember what you're playing when you're playing it, like don't accidentally start remembering like another. I mean, how many songs do you know in your head? If someone was to say play this song from this, would you be able to just come straight out of it, or do you have to remind yourself of how the song goes? Are they're all in there?
Yeah, they're not all in there. There's definitely the ones that they're more in the forefront, but it's well, and I guess, and that's probably one of the biggest things. So when I do a lot of classical stuff, it's more heady. So I'm doing all the counterpoint, the instrumentation, whatever it is. But when I do a lot of the metal stuff, I'll have like the structures, but a lot of the leads I do might be improvised or partially improvised. I try to keep that spontaneity or that freshness into it, which I'm going to try to keep that in the classical thing too, but it's not as by rote. I still like to listen to some of the stuff that we do. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, cool. And there was tracks we did on the last album where, I would do a bunch of takes and I always told Mike, and I was like, here, man, you pick them out. You pick which ones you like. There's a part where you kind of go, you got to let go, and that's not easy. You just go, all right, this is, tell me what resonates with you, or what, meshes, or, you think might be more inspired than other stuff. And so yeah, it's still that spontaneity, so
yeah,
I think that's the big one.
What about when it comes to playing it? I mean, how do you like have a certain mood and you go, right, well, I'm feeling so and so, I want to play this kind of music today, or I'm feeling like this, I'm going to write this tune because this fits my mood, or is it just like I have to do one of these records, I'm going to work on that now, whatever my mood is? How is there a certain mind frame for the different styles, or?
Yeah, no, it's true. That is true. Luckily I haven't had to, like, everything I do is because I want to do, which has been a great pleasure. So I don't have to. I never feel like, oh, I got to write this, whatever it is. And so it's always for what I want to do and create. So that's kind of a blessing. But I don't. But there are some things like, oh man, I really got to get this done, or I really got to sort through these takes. It was funny. I did a gig or a recording last summer over at the Mike studio, and so we recorded a whole bunch of stuff. It was classical stuff, and I'm still going through those takes. I know it's there, but I get distracted based on whatever the projects are or whatever things are kind of floating to the top at the time. So
what about, have you any, because quite often like with heavy metal, even the heavy stuff, you'll have like random trombone bits. Some bands got some trombones. A band I remember had a cello instead of bass, like completely with the bow. Have you considered meshing? And also some heavy metal bands have gone on tour or done like gigs with orchestras, haven't they? Is there something you've considered meshing together yourself?
Yes, that's definitely something I want to do. I've definitely and I have taken some of the stuff that I've written, like some of the original Age of Fire stuff, and actually just scored it all out for like strings and brass and things like that. But like without vocals, and like the vocal parts might be with woodwinds or whatever it is. And so, but I haven't released anything like that. So it's just kind of using that headspace where you try to go from, the instruments to the page, and then from the page to
Yeah.
so it's like the process in reverse. But but yeah, I'd love to do that. I mean, I love bands that are. I had somebody listening to, what was it, like Within Temptation or Epica or Nightwish or stuff like that, is very orchestral and
Yeah.
and obviously
Symphonic.
doing stuff with the the symphony where they're doing orchestrations based on their songs, and I would love to do something like that. But unfortunately, even as you talk to orchestral musicians or conductors, nobody's really conducting anything now. So I've been doing some chamber music stuff. That's why I'm doing like the quartets or duets.
Yeah.
Those performances are kind of doable now, but you're not going to get like a full symphony playing on stage, for some time, just because of the pandemic.
Mm. So tell us a bit about chamber music, because that's a phrase I've heard of, but is there a certain definition to what chamber music is?
So it's usually could be solo or duos, trios, quartets, quintets, octets, whatever. So usually just small ensembles that would be played like, say, like in a chamber or a parlor, like parlor music, something like that. So it's just not large, groups.
Yeah, but it's like the instruments would typically be like your classical music instruments, would they?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I did I got asked to do a piece for viola and clarinet, which I did last year. And then, like I said, I say string quartet, but it's actually violin, viola, and cello. And then the second violin, which would be a traditional like Western quartet, is replaced by guitar. So it's
Right.
kind of fills that alto space nicely, which is kind of cool. And then I did a thing for string orchestra for a group in Chicago. When that'll get performed or put, when they'll get together.
Yeah. Is it possible to do like a chamber music thing, like kind of metaled up, make it so you choose like I don't know, can you play the oboe like in a heavy metal? I could like put some real like
Yeah. There's a track actually on my new disc, which is which actually has tenor saxophones. Like usually you'll have like guitar players, trading off solos, and I'm doing that, but with a tenor saxophone. And a buddy of mine, and I was like, "Why the hell not?" This sounds cool,
So it's sound like classical metal can be kind of heavy, but in a straight. What's the one with that has the cannons on it? Is it? I think it's. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Based on the Battle of Waterloo, but that's kind of like epic, and it's almost kind of heavy metal, but it's just like so bombastic and like.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, there's a lot of like big Russian orchestral music, Rimsky-Korsakov and like I said, Stravinsky, and but the Beethoven too. There's so much Beethoven stuff I listen to, and I'm like, oh, that's a metal tune. If he had electric guitar or like some like heavy synthesizer, I'm like, oh yeah, no, it's a metal tune.
Mm. What is your history in music that you've got all these strings to your bow? I mean, have you self-taught or did you go to like some music college?
Right. So I originally was self-taught for many, many years. When I moved from Florida to Virginia, where I live now in the States, I was working at a music store, local music store, but it was cool. We did a bunch of repairs for local schools and orchestras, bands, and things like that. And so we would have like one side of the shop was like brass, and the other side was woodwind, and the other side, and so I could hear this stuff all the time, all day long, as they're practicing through and playing through them. And so you can start hearing different colors and different things blend, and just learning the logistics. And then I just became a sponge. I just wanted to read up on this stuff, and I read a bunch of books. So self-taught for the longest time. That's one thing that I've done because of the pandemic. I actually went back, or I'm actually going back, or I am back. I guess in the fall I went back to get my master's degree in composition. So I've been studying like formally now to kind of, make up for that gap of not really performing. So I've gone back now and looked at some of the orchestral stuff I've written, and some solo stuff, and different. There's more orchestral stuff. So now I guess I'm I'm in the process of getting formally trained.
Right. And will that be like a doctorate or something like that? We have letters after your name or something after you, once you've learned it all, like Doctor of
Right.
Musicology or something like
Right. Yeah, it's
that.
getting there. So yeah, I guess in a year and a half I'll have my master's in music composition. And
Cool.
so yeah, yeah.
Have you got a favorite style, a favorite thing you like to play, or is it just different music gives you different feelings inside, or is it just the actual just playing music like give you different feelings, or is it the same whatever music you're playing you feel the same kind of satisfaction for them, or is there something that gives you more satisfaction because maybe it's harder to put together or something like that?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, I think it's across the board. I think just like music is, emotion. There's times where I'll play a thrash metal tune and be like, "Oh, this is great," or I'll hear some like woodwind thing, I wrote. I'm like, "Oh, that's really cool." Or I mean, I love playing flamenco. And it's just because to me that's like classical technique with like metal attitude, and I mean the technique, the disciplines are phenomenal, and so but also like blues, playing blues or jazz and things like that. And I like the spontaneity and kind of the communication in jazz. And that's obviously something we're missing now with the pandemic. But yeah, but it's fun. Once in a while, I get a call and be like, "Hey, we need a combo or a trio or whatever to do this jazz gig." I'm going like, "Yeah," and sit and play, and play some Duke Ellington or whatever, and it's just great stuff. I think good music is good music. I think the
Yeah,
genre thing is tough. It kind of gives you an idea. It's like a recipe when you're making something. You need a little spice of this, you need a little of that. Sometimes you need it all, and so
yeah,
it's hard because people are like, "Oh, what do you do?" And you go like, "Well, yeah, I play metal. Yeah, I also play blues. Yeah, I play jazz, and I also write for orchestra." So it's like, I guess it's just it's easier just to say I'm a composer because it just covers
yeah.
more boxes.
And I just simply play, you could say, because you play so much. I just play music. What about we're talking about playing music? Is it just guitar that you have to play yourself, or can you play any of the wind instruments or timpani or anything? Well, what other instruments have you mastered?
Right. Well, mastered none of them, but I'll play ukulele. The ukulele is kind of fun and portable. It's kind of a fun thing. And I got that years ago just teaching students. There just became a huge demand for ukulele. So that's been a blast. I can make a sound on pretty much any instrument: trombone, trumpet, clarinet, flute. Am I good? No. I can do some drums. But it's I'm rusty. I live like an apartment now, so my neighbors I would get in trouble.
Yeah.
That's the hard thing with drums is they're fantastic and they're great, great exercise and great to get things out. And but it's just everybody around you hears it. So it gives you an
Hard to practice
opportunity.
with.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What about growing up when you were young? I mean, what kind of music started you off? What I mean, was you like chart music or your parents' music, or when did you discover like your love for heavy music?
Um, so it was. My mom is a big classical fan, so we would have like the classical records on at home here and there. And my dad though grew up mostly listening to country music, out here kind of out in the country, but that wasn't really played at home. So it was more probably classical music, and it'd be like Bach and Beethoven, Tchaikovsky, things like that. um, and there's a show here in the States called Hee Haw, which is kind of like a country show, and you have like Glenn Campbell playing the banjo. So the country stuff was on, but I remember being a kid, being God late '70s and hearing like Eruption for the first time and being like, oh my God, what is that? And you're like, that's a guitar. I'm like, it's like a spaceship. What do you mean it's a guitar? And so I remember hearing that and being like, oh wow, like that really got my attention. When when Back in Black came out in 1980, that was a big one. Like I remember I bought it on cassette and I listened to it so much, I wore the ink off of it on both sides. I was like, little nod to your shirt there. But I remember being at a buddy's party. It was like, I guess 82, and Number the Beast came on. They had his brother, like his older brother had Number the Beast. And I was like, what is that? And I think that was the one that just made me a metalhead for life is when I heard Number the Beast. I was like, what is this? And then I got into the back catalog of, Killers and, the Diano stuff. And And then from there I got into Sabbath, and then Dio was going, went solo, and then it was the 80s, and then it was just metal was everywhere. I remember a buddy of mine I went over his house once after school, and he's like, "Man, I just picked up this record. Let's check it out." And I was like, "Okay," and it was Kill 'Em All. I remember that. I remember right from the beginning, like when all the thrash stuff happened, and loved it. It was just, you knew it was something exciting and something different. It was something very fresh. And so, yeah, I was hooked. Yeah, and it was always the guitar. It was always, I always like, oh yeah, I got to play the guitar. Got to learn how to play the guitar.
Yeah. What about punk? Did you ever get into the punk sort of scene? Hardcore, that kind of thing?
Not too much. I'm definitely, usually through osmosis, through other bands that I know that were into kind of more punk stuff. Probably my first band when I was in like middle school, here, the singer was huge into punk. So we listened to like DRI, Dead Kennedys. I was in an old band. We used to play like the Cro-Mags, stuff like that. And, but personally, I never really had too much, old suicidal tendency stuff I'd have. But yeah, not too much. But it was,
No.
it was always present.
And so with your like multi kind of like styles that you played, is there any style you haven't played yet that you'd like to, or are there any styles that you absolutely hate and would never even look at if you were asked to? It's kind of a double question.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still not a big country fan, or as I say that, I'd say probably modern country. It doesn't move me very much. It's hard when people start singing about tractors and and like that. I guess I'm too city boy that doesn't get me, at all.
No.
But I've definitely aware of some of the players like Albert Lee and so many others that have some serious chops. Some of those players are great, but the tone is just not my thing. But if you go back to old country, there's definitely some old country which is very similar to the blues, which I love. I love like Son House and Robert Johnson and Howlin' Wolf, Muddy Waters, those guys. And you could go back and look at some like Hank Williams Sr. and some stuff like that. That is song structures are very similar. There's a lot of different, or very similar moods going on between the old blues guys and some of the old classical stuff from like a century or more ago.
Yeah.
But as far as as far as what I'd like to get into more, I definitely, I know enough jazz to be dangerous. I wish I was more familiar with jazz and the standards and stuff. It's some of the stuff that goes on is just the harmonic textures are just so, amazing to listen to. And I don't know, when you listen to it, it's like listening to the 20th century. There's so much stuff that went on there, and the basis and the roots. So I'm learning, but I think jazz, I guess, is just something that it's always evolving, which is kind of the beauty of it, and like I said, whatever, if you're playing a standard versus, you have 2-3 people in the room, and, the next week you're playing with 2-3 different other people in the room and playing the same song, it's going to be different, and that's kind of the freshness of it. It's not, it's not people sitting in the studio for a year and a half, polishing, the same 8 songs. It's all there, bumps, warts, and everything, and that's, and just putting it out there to be that sharp on the fly with your theory and your harmony and everything. That's impressive to me, to be able to do.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've never really sort of been into jazz. I've listened to jazz much, but they're very like capable musicians, aren't they? And like they're always kind of reinventing and refining and adding bits and like making bits up on the fly, like you say, if they're doing like a jam or whatever.
Yeah.
I know I was going to mention about country. I like a bit of yodeling. I've seen just a country with a bit of yodeling. I enjoy that. I think it's quite fun.
No, I've seen people do it. I've seen singers. I remember I saw, I guess, an interview with Laurel Dane, who I love, do some yodeling, and some of it's like, I think it's context, like I remember growing up, wasn't a big reggae fan, and I remember I went to I guess I was in the Bahamas, and I'm sitting there on the beach with a drink with a big umbrella hanging out of it, and they had the reggae band in the back, and I'm going, oh, this makes sense, and so, it just I think it's just context. And so I was in Switzerland, years ago, and I heard people like yodeling, and they had those big like trumpet things, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. So I think some of it
Yeah.
is just exposing you to different cultures and experiences and stuff, and it's great.
Right, we've got a question from my mate Bill. He's asking, are there any contemporary metal bands that you enjoy listening to?
Oh, hey, Bill, how are you doing? Thanks for the question. Well, oh my gosh. So yesterday, Todd Latour, the singer from Queensryche, just came out he just dropped his solo disc, which is incredible. If you haven't heard it yet, it's pretty amazing. God, there's so many bands out there that I love and listen to. Unfortunately, probably in the last 5 years, not too many. I'll definitely, I mean, that's the thing. Everybody's sitting home right now online, and it's like, oh, and I'll listen to this track here, and I always like listening to like Semblance in Brazil. Some bands out in the States. I'm excited about the new Violence album coming out. Bobby Gustafson's back in the lineup with them, who I always loved when he was with Overkill back in the day. So yeah, but right now the one is the Todd Latour right now is burning up my CD player pretty well. Yeah. Have you heard any of that? Have you heard any of those tracks?
Who was it? Sorry, you said?
This is Todd Latour, the singer of Queensryche. Just released. He just released a solo disc, and
I've never really been into Queensryche. I think I've heard about 2 songs from Queensryche. That's all I've ever listened to. Revolution Call is the only one I can remember.
Sure,
It came on like a sample at one time.
Right.
But that's the thing. There's so much metal, and metal adjacent music. It's impossible for it. Like for example, Bill, he likes a load of like weird bands that I wouldn't cross the road. Or if they're playing outside my door, I'd shut the window. That kind of thing. Like Devil Wears Prada and like this kind of modern-y kind of metal bands.
Sure.
Don't do it for me at all.
Yeah. Well, sometimes too when you're listening to something, and it'll be like, oh, you might also like, and if I'm taking a hike or something, I'll hit play, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. And so I have a neighbor who's turning me on to like Within Temptation, and I think that spun off into some Epica stuff, and so that's that kind of that fusion you're talking about of like classical metal or orchestration stuff, and
the Gothic symphonic.
Yeah, it's like they're singing in choirs and in Latin and all kinds of stuff, and it's pretty well. I like it. I mean, that's definitely, not how I write. It was so I have an admiration for that because it's just not what I do.
I think we've got half hour already. We haven't really spoken about your new stuff that's coming out. So what's happening with Age of Fire? Give us a nice update. First, we've got a question. I think we probably answered this last time we chatted back in August. What made you reform of Age of Fire after all these years? And maybe tell us what's coming soon from Age of Fire. You still got is it 2 albums plus an EP or that come out recently?
So it is 3 full length. So yeah, Elric, great question. So God, it was so we kind of officially, the original lineup disbanded in '93. So we were kind of late '80s band based in South Florida, and so we went to and when I moved actually to Virginia, that's when I really started. I kind of got burned out on the biz. Just dealing with everything. I wasn't, digging a lot of the grunge stuff that was going on. The metal scene changed. It was just a very different thing. And so I really wanted to study music more. And so that's where I kind of got into classical music, reading music. Like I said, I was self-taught for the longest time, and they had. And then that kind of ultimately led to it. But I still listen to metal. I mean, through the 90s, be it Pantera, Dio was doing stuff. I became a huge Jeff Loomis, Nevermore fan. Just probably one of my favorite all-time bands. And so I would still go to metal shows and things like that. And so I just got the itch, I was still playing. But actually even longer answer to that was I was playing classical for so long, and I had I had cancer like 8 years ago. And so one of the things they do is, or at least they did for me, is they put the port, to put the chemo in your chest. And I was playing classical guitar, which is a big body, and it was like uncomfortable to play. And I didn't really play that much, but I was able to pick up my guitar, which was easier to push down the strings, the tension's less. And then, and I just started playing, and I just started writing. And then, so I came out with 2 solo discs. First one was Chemo Brain, which is actually something that's a residual part of having the chemo for the cancer treatments. You know, you can get foggy and this and that, and a lot of tunes on that I don't remember kind of the inception of writing them. And then I got into that. I did like a blues disc, and God, I think it was one night I went to see. I think it was Motorhead. It was Motorhead, Megadeth, and Sabbath with Dio. I think it was the Dio Years tour, and I was like, oh my! And I was in the pit. I was like, this is great. I'm like, I need to do something like this. And so where I live, there's not much of a metal scene. So you know, I kind of tagged in some people that I knew to kind of, you know, I kind of remastered some of the old stuff, released that, and then kind of and I had enjoyed it so much, I did another disc where I tagged in a drummer from Europe, and we were kind of trading tracks back and forth. I did vocals on a couple tracks, and at that point, there started getting some momentum and building up the social media stuff. Got a PR company working for us, and then led to a management deal. Then we got signed, and then at that point, kind of tagged in, you know, Mike and Laura to do what became the Shades of Shadow disc. So it's still evolving. We definitely have some things coming up we're pretty excited about in the spring. That'll be that we'll announce. The things are growing with the band, and we've been writing like fiends because of the pandemic. And Mike and Laura are, you know, writing now as well. Traditionally, I've been the sole writer, so it's kind of nice getting some stuff that they're doing. Their creative things. They're more a lot more. They're more the '90s stuff. So they're big like Smashing Pumpkins and things like that growing up. So it's cool to kind of get all that melting together.
So have you got like an album practically, like the songs all together for the new album already?
I had a conversation the other day that, you know, if we wanted to, it could probably be a double album with all the stuff that we would do, you know. But I think a lot of bands are in the same boat. I mean, I think so many people are just sitting home. You're like, what are you going to do? So you're right.
Yeah. It's like I was chatting to a guy last weekend, and he's got his main band because they can't do anything. He's just done a solo project. He just started a solo project. So let's talk about your solo project now, because it's just under your own name. Is it Greg C. Brown? Is that the title you use for your solo stuff?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I have such a common name. I have to pop the initial in there to kind of differentiate me from all the other Greg Browns in the universe.
Yeah.
So like I said, it's mostly a retrospective. So it does have stuff from the '80s. So there's like some original Age of Fire stuff. There's some couple like newer Age of Fire tracks in there. There's like a track off a blues disc I did. There's a track off a couple tracks off like the Chemo Brain when I originally started, you know, playing again. Some stuff is like, you know, drum machines. Some is like, you know, real drums. Just kind of playing around. Like I said, one track has a tenor saxophone player on it. And then I have two new tracks, and then one that I released as a single, Building 7, came out New Year's Day. So that's been picking up steam. That's on YouTube. You can look that up right now, but that'll be out as well. And that one also has my premiere with a 7-string. So that was kind of nice. I started playing 7-string with the pandemic, which is
all right.
Yeah, definitely.
If anyone's looking for links, you go to the description down below. You've got a blog post with all the links for your Bandcamp and so forth. But the actual full album comes out February 23rd, is it?
Yes, February 23rd. Yeah, and it'll be on everything, Spotify, iTunes, and the like.
GCB, it's called.
Correct. Yep, my initials. Yep.
Oh. I was thinking JCB, like a digger of some sort. So have you with the fact like everyone's like, well, so a couple of people with the same similar name as yours, have you considered just giving it like a solo band name, like just making it like a project and giving it like a word name or something like that, or you want to do it under your own name? Right.
Yeah, it's tough because I've had to do that over the years, and it could be, you know, if it's the Greg Brown Band, I could be doing jazz, I could be doing blues. It's kind of tough, and so there's a famous American artist, Greg Brown, who studied with Pete Seeger, great folk, you know, singer here in the States, and so, you know, I mean, I remember growing up, I already had like a section in the record store, and I was like, yeah, but that's not what I do, you know. And there's a Charles Brown, you know, there's you know, I think, and there's a Chuck Brown, and you start like every kind of deviation of my name has been used, and so it's Yeah, it's been a marketing pain. Trust me.
You never thought about changing your name.
Yeah, exactly.
Something like something macho, like I don't know, Greg Iron or something like that.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. What was the one they had? They like, yeah, it was like I had some like a buddy of mine was teasing me about. I was like a blues guy. He's like, yeah, it should be like downtown Greg Brown or something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
Something to kind of make it pop out. But yeah, I mean, it is
yeah.
what it is. You know.
Is it physical CDs for that as well? Or is it just going to be online streaming and that?
Well, with the pandemic, it's going to be online for now. I do hope to have a physical, tangible like release and things like that. And then we're in the process too. Like Mike and Laura also have a solo project that they're working on called Super Vixen. So it's more rock based. And so we're going to try to. So our website's ageoffire.net, and we're gonna put those links up there to our solo projects, though, so it'll be easier for people to find. So that's
Yeah.
coming too.
And is there any plans? I mean, not that you can make plans, but are you planning on playing the stuff from this GCB album anywhere soon?
Well, soon, no, but playing out, yes.
Yeah, I suppose with it being like a one-man project, you could feasibly do like one-man gigs kind of thing with it. If you've got a backing track, you could play along to.
It's true.
I mean, like live, maybe like online.
Yeah, and I thought about it, and maybe doing some kind of clinics or demos, like, hey, this is how you play this tune or whatever. But the funny thing is, right now, I have my gear. I'm taking this opportunity to kind of. I've been getting new gear. I just got a new guitar from Solar Guitars last week. I have my guitar. I just got a new Floyd Rose from Germany came in. So that I literally right before the show, I had that dropped off of my guitar tech. My amp is kind of in kaputs right now because I'm putting new tubes in my amp. So I'm just kind of like giving all my gear a fresh up, And so once everything's kind of done, I will definitely, be posting some stuff on, YouTube pages and things like that. So.
Yeah. And what about you said at one point you've done some videos? Did you say you've done some videos for your some of your tunes?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's some classical stuff I've done, and for GCB, it's mostly just the cover and just the audio for it. It's amazing. Hey, people are sitting around. Like YouTube just gets a lot more traffic. Before just kind of help build up momentum. For the release.
And you haven't considered like doing like maybe for Age of Fire? Have you got any lyric videos? I know you got a video for Aquilonia and King of Aquilonia. Was that? I can't remember. Was it a picture, or did you actually go out and record like a proper video for it?
So we have 2 lyric videos that the label did for us. So one's for King of Aquilonia, and then Judgment Day was the single we dropped in the fall. But as far as going out and doing a shoot and trying to, it's it's funny. It all looks like God, what was that movie? Like the Blair Witch, I've seen people do it, everybody's running around with camcorders and you're going like, yeah, but is that right now that's not the end result that we're looking for, so,
no. You have to be very inventive to come up with something that looks decent that you can just film from your individual homes.
Yeah. I guess it's funny that I got tagged in on this project, and I guess it was last summer. And this guy was doing this. I think it was the anniversary. It was the birthday of. I guess maybe it was last April of Duke Ellington. And so they had used like a what was it? It was a jazz. It was like a live radio gig I did. It was the recording of Satin Doll, and and this guy. And it was all these film directors too that are sitting around their houses. So they just started filming the cats in the neighborhood and the dogs, and it was just sitting around and. Because so many artists, no matter what you do, are just bored. You can't, get, your product out and get people to see it. So, so that was kind of a fun thing.
I've got a mate on here I've interviewed before. His channel's called Harmonica Man, and he's played like harmonica for a few people. And he's always looking for jamming online. So if you ever looking to jam with a harmonica player, look him up.
Yeah, that would be great. No,
Yeah,
for sure. I still love God. I still don't believe like James Cotton, used to play with Muddy Waters, is still out and putting out stuff. And I mean, no, I love the old blues stuff and the new stuff too. It's great stuff.
Cool. Tell us about your previous solo project albums. Because I listened to one the other day. You sent me a link, and I put it all in the blog. And I listened to one of the albums all the way through. I can't remember what it was now. And like you say, lots of different stuff going on there. Lots of different sort of, because they're all instrumental, aren't they? Have you ever considered doing singing for them?
Well, the original with Age of Fire, I did vocals for that. I kind of do it out of necessity, I think. And it's like too, like working with Laura. I mean, she's such a phenomenal singer that it's hard for me to kind of with her around. But it's there's something. There's something I like with instrumental music. I know sometimes it's hard. I know it puts a lot of demand on people's, ears, and but in some ways I think it helps the mind kind of go, because you're so focused on the music and things like that and you can put a lot of different textures, in an instrumental piece that might get muddied up if you had a vocal track into it. So I just kind of treat that as kind of a different thing. It's just different structures. And that's the other thing too, is with a song, you're dealing with the chorus and the bridge and verse and things like that, and with instrumental you can kind of be a little bit maybe more free. I feel it's just gives you more freedoms, and you can kind of throw some monkey wrenches here and there, or some unexpected things there if you're singing lyrically based on a certain song or certain topic or subject matter. Sometimes those monkey wrenches seem a little, disjunct, out of place. So,
well, this new one you bring out, these GCB, is it what's the standout tracks for you? How do you sort of write a track? Do you come up with a name for a song and then sort of think about that while or do you just like write a song and then come up with a name for it afterwards? Is there any story behind any of the names related to that?
Yes, for sure. So, it's so funny. I was doing some press here, I guess last month or so, about Building 7, and people were talking about it, this and this and this and that, and somebody finally was like, "Wait a minute, is that a 9/11 reference?" And I was like, "Yes, it is." If you're familiar with the 9/11 here in the States, the Building 7 was the building that just kind of fell at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Oh,
yeah. So it was.
My head, first of all, I was going 9/11, the phone number to call the police. Then I was thinking there was a boy band called 9/11. I think there was at one point. You're talking about the actual event.
Yeah. September 11th. So, so that's actually is a September 11th reference to that. There's some things that are a little trippy I've done with some phaser flanger stuff. So they usually have some astronomical names to it. There's like dual phase of the lost moon, things like that. I'm a huge space nerd. Astronomy, things like that. And I'm trying to remember what, there's one like High Speed Chase, so it's definitely very Satriani-esque, you got this kind of groovy bass vibe, and it's just, everything's just kind of moving forward, with that. There's some things I did. There's now the track, The Love, it's actually called Love, which is that was probably the first one that I recorded after my chemo, or when I was dealing with chemo. And that was one of the ones I don't really remember writing so much. I just remember coming through and going through some sound files one day, and I mean, like, wow, that's pretty cool, and for the most part, except for some delay on the end, it's just unedited, just one long take, and probably about 5.5 minutes long. So, but it's got it's drum machine. It's very, synthesized. There's that Satriani disc he did, Engines of Creation, which is more, more kind of techno meets rock metal. I kind of like that fusion. It's just kind of different. And again, gives you a different kind of space to be able to write in. So yeah, that's kind of it. Because of You, I did actually, that's written for my daughter. So it's, so yeah, there's definitely different, there's inspiration behind everything,
Right. Is that a good song? Is that a positive song about your daughter? Not because of you, I couldn't go out and enjoy myself, or because of you, I was late for my appointment. Because of you, no, was it like
right? No.
all positive stuff?
Yeah, it's a good thing. It's it was it was based on a poem, and it was just kind of like, why are you, doing this, or why does the sun shine so bright, and why does the and it was just
Yeah.
because of you kind of thing. And
All
so
right.
it resonated. So that actually started off as a classical bit as well. And I liked it because it starts off in like B minor, and it has this kind of slow descending, um, chromatic line. And there's like a 7/8 time. So it's kind of like a little offbeat here and there. So nice. All right. I'm trying to read the question here.
That's just someone's telling us about their music. It's not actually a question. I just
Yeah.
sharing it. You just say what music he likes.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. Yeah, I mean, I grew up with Metallica, Megadeth. Huge Megadeth fan.
Yeah.
Metallica. It's hard not to. They're kind of like the ABCs of heavy metal.
Mm. So as someone who's like, I've been in a band, but I can't play. I was too lazy to ever learn an instrument, and it just kind of intrigues me. When you say you found that sound file you didn't remember doing because of the chemo brain, can you just listen to something you've played and know instantly again how to play it? Can you listen to it like and say, "Well, this is this," or do you got to work out what you've played, or can you just go, "Oh, I hear that's a note," and then know how does that work? Do you have to sort of figure it out when you listen to it, or do you instantly go, "Oh yeah," and then you can instantly know what notes are being played in what order? Or
No, I wish I could remember it all. I think and I'm trying to be better about that, because sometimes I'll write something and I'll be like, yeah, I'll do this crazy tuning, or I'll just change the tuning of this one string, and I'll have a capo on the third fret, or and when you record it, you don't. But then that's the other thing too, is you'll record it and you're like, wow, this guitar sounded really good. What was I doing? So now when I track, I've been trying to be much better about, okay, I use this microphone, I use this guitar, I was going for this. I try to put some sort of, highlight, something that'll maybe make the light bulb go off in my head.
yeah.
Sometimes it's easy than others. Sometimes I go, yeah, I don't know. you know.
And also, I'm pretty sure everyone will be interested and like dying to know any ukulele on the new Age of Fire album.
No, not on the new Age of Fire. There is a track that I did that'll be upcoming, which actually has a nylon string over the electric guitar. So it was kind of nice.
Okay.
Yeah, I picked up a Schecter last year that had the like active pickups. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, just try different things. So it was, they power off like a 9-volt battery. So they're definitely hot. So it's pretty fat rhythm. It's pretty chunky rhythm sounds to it. So a buddy of mine I grew up with, and I've been throwing him tracks, and he's great because he's been listening to my music forever, and he'll give me like the honest truth. I'm like, yeah, what do you think about this? And if it's yay or nay, he'll tell me. And he's just been like, yeah, man, you're writing like the heaviest stuff ever. And that could be a result of the pandemic, is just the frustration and the angst and just kind of coming out and
Yeah.
up. So definitely some heavy stuff coming the way.
So carry on with the ukulele because it jumped into my head. There's an old UK comedian, like singer comedian called George Formby. Have you ever heard of his stuff? I used to play on the ukulele all the time.
Yeah, I have actually. I have, yes.
Yeah. Have you ever thought of doing any tunes like that? Maybe a bit of old time musical kind of ukulele.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. There's God, I saw it years ago. There's like like the ukulele orchestra, like of Great Britain or whatever, and
Right.
they were doing oh my God, they were doing like the theme from like one of the Clint Eastwood movies. Hysterical, because the one guy no, it was so funny. Yeah, I haven't written stuff for the ukulele. I haven't really notated anything out. I kind of want to, like you said, so I don't forget what I was doing. But I don't see any ukulele in the immediate future. I hate to say never, but I don't see that coming. Maybe like some sort of like hula metal or something. I don't know, but
that'd be interesting. All right, so the solo thing, that's just the sort of brought out yourself, or have you got a label for that? Is it likely to have a label? Are you looking to get a label to put that out on?
Gotcha. No, I did that just on my own. Just kind of released it self-titled, self-released, and didn't really want to deal with red tape and all that stuff, and just kind of just get it out. And like I said, the timing's nice because like Mike's and Laura, they're kind of wrapping up their project, and then got this going on, and then like I said, and so now we're cutting through a lot of the Age of Fire stuff that we've done and sorting through songs and tracks and things like that and takes. So the plan right now is to really kind of come out with some singles, every few months with the pandemic until we can get back on stage. You know, like I said, it was such a bummer last year to have this disc come out and then boom, everything just shut down. And so,
Yeah.
yeah,
It
so we
was
don't
an
want to do that
empty
again.
year. Yeah, it was an empty year for everyone, wasn't it? Total empty year for everyone. Any idea what the first single's likely to be? Are you still got to thrash it out with have you got one that's like a favourite at the moment for being the new single?
All right. Well, I haven't announced this yet, but yeah. So the first single is called "Seeds of Tomorrow," and so it'll be out. We're hoping it'll be out sometime in March. Like I said, it's pretty much done. Laura's just finishing up the vocals now, and then just kind of mix and get it out. And so lyrically, you know, it was something I wrote. And it was just kind of basically, you know, obviously written in the pandemic. You know, just kind of the importance of what we do today reflects and affects our tomorrows. You know, and so, you know, definitely be mindful of your present, and but you know, don't you know, kind of pay attention to what's going on. You know, kind of thing.
Yeah. That's cool. That's interesting. So, have you got like a date? Because I know you're still with Rock Shots Records. Was it? No, Slip Trick, was it?
Flip Trick, yeah.
Slip Trick. Are you're still signed with them for another album or something, or is the contract rolling?
Gotcha. So no, we just did a one-off for them. So it is possible, but there's nothing in ink at the moment. So
Right.
you know, we're kind of free agents at the moment. So we'll see.
So would the idea to be to record an album and then start shopping it to different labels?
Yeah, we've had a few people show interest too, just because of the last disc, and you know, they've been good, and they've been great. You know, kind of getting our name out there around the globe, and it's so it's possible we could do something with them again in the future. You know, the other trick for us being in the States is, you know, them being in Europe, so to try to have the infrastructure to do support and merchandising and stuff kind of in our backyard is trickier, I guess, you know, with them over there. So we're trying. I guess that's kind of the thing too with the pandemic. We're kind of moving some pieces around the chessboard to try to see which, you know, kind of works best for us. And man, I don't know what the world's going to look like when finally we're allowed to perform music. It's going to be insane. I mean, people are going to go nuts, you know, and me along with it. Yeah.
Has the because obviously a lot of places are struggling, especially venues and that. Have there been any like venues that have had to close near you because of the pandemic? I mean, when you do get to go out there, are there still places to play?
Man, not like I said, there's not much of a metal scene where we are, or club scene. There's a lot of more folk music, things like that. You know, we do have some stadiums, you know, 8,000 seats, something like that. But unfortunately, there have been too many, you know, clubs and venues that have been affected by this, and I don't think we'll really know until the end, until it sorts out who's still going to be floating, who's going to be able to open their doors. You know, it's very, very sad. You know, there's definitely some places. God, I was reading like Key West or whatever, like off the coast of Florida. I mean, it was like something like 150 businesses have closed, and that's a lot of clubs and restaurants and things. We've had many mom and pop shops here close, restaurants, retailers, you know, everything. It's like I said, and it's not getting better tomorrow. So it's like I said, I don't know how it's gonna sort out. We'll still be hanging around.
Yeah, I think there's still plenty more repercussions to come down the line for all sorts of you know, financial and all sorts. You know,
Yeah.
I'd imagine like little kids are going to be quite traumatized by it all. And growing up, it's going to be weird for them. They might be scared to go out. Who knows? I don't know. I suppose it's just to wait and see what happens. I suppose. Well, we're coming up to the hour mark now, so I'd let you sort of. I need you to send me like a track so I can play it on my show as well, my podcast. I haven't got a track yet for your solo project. So if you want to send me one of the heavy ones or something like that to play on the podcast.
I'll send a single to you. So without a doubt.
All right, and I'll let you just finish up. Just, you know, say whatever you want to say to people. Whoever comes and watches to this later on, what would you sort of suggest? How should they check you out? What's the best way to get in touch with you and get your music? Or
Sure. So we're on Facebook. You know, the Age of Fire is on Facebook, and just look up Age of Fire. It'll pop up. Like I said, I'm under Greg C. Brown on Facebook for my solo stuff. ageoffire.net. You can find us. Like I said, we both have. There's the band YouTube page, and then there's my solo YouTube page. Works out. We're on Bandcamp as well. a few pages for there. And so thanks for providing the lyrics. And I'll send you the track. Actually, as soon as we get off here, I'll send you the track. And yeah, it's actually it's I've been happy with the way it went out. And I like I said, I dig in the 7-string. It's nice, kind of gives you an extra sonic range. It's kind of been fun. So
Right.
so yeah, just yeah, thanks for having me on. Good talking to people, and love to get over to England sometime soon. When it's all safe and sound and we can drink a beer together and play some
Yeah.
live music.
Yeah, it's I think it's extra tricky now with Brexit. I'm not too sure because I feel a lot of bands who are going to come over for European tours and have to pay extra blinking visas to come to the UK. So we're going to lose out on a lot of tours we would have got in the past. So we don't know what it's not just the pandemic that's affecting us here. It's the very Brexit that the government decided to let people vote on. So it's like double the rubbish.
Yeah, no, for sure. And yeah, I've been following what's been going on over there for sure. So yeah, best of luck. We all have challenges. You got like a big floating stage, like off like the cliffs of Dover, and crank it up.
Yeah, in the old days, they had Radio Caroline that used to go outside of the waters so they could broadcast in from a boat. So maybe we'd have to do that. We'd have to get like floating stages just outside of the exclusion zone or whatever it is. Yeah, so that any bands can come over without having to get visas. That's not a bad idea. Yeah. Logistics might be a bit tricky.
Yeah. We'll figure it out. As long as the tides, as long as the tide's not going out or something.
Yeah. Man, great to have you on. Hopefully, maybe some more time down the line we'll get on to chat to you again when you got another album out, something like that. Or maybe you could come on. I've got another stream I'm doing in an hour actually with Under a Spell, who I've interviewed before, but I do like a show called Music Memories. Maybe you could come on and do Music Memories with us sometime. Just basically choose 5 bits of music or 5 albums that really resonated with you in your history and chat about them. Let's do that at some point. All right.
Yeah, that sounds
cool.
Fun.
Yeah. All right. Talk to you soon, mate.
All right. Great. Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
All right.
And don't forget, link down below. It's got a lot of the links for Greg and for Age of Fire. So make sure you go and click on them and buy their stuff.